Here we go. It is time for another sprint zone, and we're going to start early with a little bit of some of the action coming out of 10 Myth. And at the time, we're doing maybe 24, 25 miles an hour, and people are just pushing the pace up front. Wisely, the head of the peloton and a nicely ordered group decided not to chase, but I thought it would be nice because there's a new rider up here that doesn't know what the deal is, and sometimes there's a lack of group awareness. So I let them know that, hey, you're going a little too fast because this is, in fact, the warm-up zone. Although some people just don't care and they keep going. And so I've given the warning, and new guy, just keep going because some people just don't want to listen to the ride leader. If you want to swing your Johnson around, there are plenty of rides where you can do that. But I would just say you should observe the culture of the ride that you're with and follow. And as we say, there are riders off the front, and enough said about that. But a word of the wise for anybody else doing anybody else's ride. So I got a little glossary here. People were talking about what's an NPC, what's an OG. NPC, non-player character, OG, original gangster, not old guy, as was talked about by some folks. And now we return to our regularly scheduled program. Nicely ordered group here, 2x2, and I'd like to thank Mark for his telemetry. I didn't have any because for my speed, because my power meters, for some reason, they're not syncing with my Garmin stuff. It's an ancient Watt Team thing that's like now discontinued. So, alas. But looking at Mark's power sitting in, you can see that even during the warm-up period, 30-second power of like 220 watts, this just kind of lets you know what we're throwing down during this period. And there's other riders. I think there's 2 or 3 of them that are already off the front, and they are on their own ride. And I'll digress once again. You want to do that? You can go do your own ride. But at least there is wisdom here within the group not to chase. Unfortunately, a lot of people are like sheep, and they'll just follow the fastest person or whoever, even though they know better. And I'll quote Maya Angelou here. If you know better, you got to do better. So, heading into the sprint zone, and I've always wondered why some people decide to go into the left-hand turning lane to make a right turn here. I think it's a habit that we shouldn't be in. It's probably not good, but not technically against the rules of engagement, but I'll have to add that perhaps. And anytime, it's party time. Everyone's looking pretty strong and maybe a little bit worn out from that warm-up pace. And looking up the road, you can see there were riders. You can't even see them. They're that far up the road, at least not in this video. I mean, we could in person. It's my turn to I want to go to the front, keep things honest, but not too honest. But there's JC on his aero bars, and he's training for a triathlon. And so he's brought his aero bars today, and I didn't realize that at the time. I thought he was just doing puppy paws, but we are chasing in earnest. And I thought, that JC would be able to bring these guys back. But come to find out that after talking to him, he wasn't even trying. He was just doing 200 watts up there, and it was hard enough to sit in. The speed here, like 27 miles an hour. We were just flying, and I'm behind him, and I'm trying to like, where's the draft? Where's the draft? And I'm moving around a little bit, and I do wish I had my power statistics because I wasn't feeling that much draft. And if anybody I'm not that happy to be like where I am. The rear view, it is good. So we got Mr. Lawyer back there who hasn't been training as much, got a business to run, got businesses to run, doesn't have time to train. I'm not certain exactly where Mark is, but I don't think Mark made this selection. And you can see that his speed is even reasonable. It's like 24, not even making the selection. And we are still strung out and a ramming and a thumping. Looking at the map, this is approximately the 1 mile point. So JC has been out in front for like a mile, and people are just barely hanging on. I'm thinking to myself, I don't really want to be here. I need to find some way to slide back here with honor. But that wouldn't be good at this point because I'm kind of okay. And I realized that, well, it's better to be up here and try to suffer, and maybe things will slow down because, well, but it is JC. And he can hold this speed all day, especially with the aero bars. And no one is looking forward to, coming forward here, which, it's kind of okay as we're chasing the men up front. Although they're really not on our ride, but just the fact that they're up the road is coloring the event. Because I'm pretty certain, this might be a guess, and this would be something I could ask JC, if those gentlemen were not up at the front, if they were not off the front, would we be chasing as hard? Would the dynamics be different? And I'm pretty certain that they would be. Looking rearward, and we see the big man, the man of steel, on that climbing bike coming up the right-hand side, looking super strong. Look at the definition there and how nicely that kit fits. Very nice. And at this point, it's like, okay, it's time for me to drop back. And people come by, and I'm happy. And I'm doing my little 20 miles an hour, drifting back. You can see Mark's back there somewhere doing a good speed. Big crew up here. And I slot in at the rear, throwing down a little bit of power to get myself back in here. And there we see the slight echelon, and we are almost guttered here. But we are chasing in earnest. And 28 miles an hour through here, this is a lot of work. A little bit of a tailwind, but not significant so that we could just be coasting and breezing through here. And it is Byron at the front, just drilling it hard here. And you could see how Jim stands up to try to keep the selection here. Jamie falls back, and it looks like it could be game over right here. And JC falls back. And that is amazing that JC falls back. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'll get on Jamie's wheel, and maybe we'll get on JC's wheel. But JC's too strong, and I'm just too tired. And I'm going to push on anyhow. And I think at this point I should be able to catch Jamie. She's looking back, probably looking back for some help, maybe hoping that there is a B group to join, because it is really no fun to be stuck out there in no man's land, or maybe no woman's land, or no person's land. Pick your gender, pick your pronoun, but you're out there in the middle. And even JC, I can see him out in front, even on the aero bars, stuck in no man's land as the selection has been made. And here I am, just pushing along. And Mark must be back there somewhere. You can see 300, 400 watts for 30 seconds. What is going on that he has not made the selection? But that's what happens if there is lethargy, if gaps open up. And just like in bike racing, and you think, what's a bike length or two? But when those people are accelerating and you're also pushing wind, it is difficult to close these things. But you can see that there is a group coming. And at the time, I didn't realize they were back there. I was trying to keep an honest tempo here, and you can see I'm doing 20. Wish I had my power meter here. Not feeling super strong. I keep thinking, did I ride or something over the weekend? But not horrible. It's nice to be able to stave people off for a little while. But they are coming. Jamie looks back, and there's a nice view of her. She looks very relaxed, enjoying that on that new bike. Yeah, she probably needs to go back and get that old bike. She's not working hard enough on the new bike. That's just making her weak. Exactly. So, hanging in there, just pedal, 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 pedal. And this is kind of boring. And we can see JC just up the road a little bit, just dangling. And I thought maybe there'll be a chance to catch him if he's kind. And he's decided that, well, maybe he doesn't want to push that hard and save himself for the rest of the ride. But there are people coming. And I can see there's a car behind some people. And some of these cars are just timid. They don't know the rules of the road. And we can't cross the yellow line or whatever. I mean, please. People need to learn how to understand and interpret the rules of the road. Because people start driving for 20, 30, 40 years. They really need a refresher. And they really need to be told what is actually going on and what is legal. And I'll digress a little bit. The new laws in Fort Collins that allow you to go through stop signs at 15 miles an hour on a bike, or that allow you, if there are no cars around and you've made a stop and the light is not changing, for you to go through safely. And I've seen some people, and there's a poison in some of the local groups where people see this and they're like, there must be a fire. And even though there's cars around, they're just going through red lights. And I'll get back to the part about a lot of cars don't know the law. If they do know the law, that is not the interpretation of the law. And as someone in the cycling community, we are not doing ourselves any favor by abusing that. It's like, is there a storm? Is there a fire? Do we fear for our safety? But I suspect, and maybe I'll ramble on about that after I pull up the actual statutes, but I know this is being abused. But back to our regularly scheduled program. The people are coming. They are a ramming and a thumping. And I know it's a matter of time after looking that they will catch us, because I was kind of surprised when they did catch us. But I'm kind of surprised that they were that far back at looking at the video and how far up the road we were, because there are strong men back here. Strong men. Yeah, there's some NPCs, but there are men willing to do work. And here's one of them now. So Justin comes through on that arrow road looking extremely strong. Elisa looking good. Marcelo, who's been riding a ton. Greg looking strong with the arrow. And Ilka hanging in there. And it's almost an insult to see the gravel bike in there with the rest of the bikes. There are people that are probably being emasculated seeing the gravel bike in there. It just seems wrong. But I digress. So I tack myself onto the end here. And even though I'm tired, I'm like, it's a free ride, and I'll end my suffering by just tacking on with them and not having to push to the end by myself. And of course, you can't have the gravel bike, being ahead of you. Looks like a pretty good crew, and it looks like no one is looking to actually attack anyone at this point. Nice and constructive, which is what I like to see. And because Scott wasn't here with his camera today, I don't know what happened up front, but I suspect that, either Byron or JC, Byron probably took that one. Not certain how close JC got or how that got on. But in any case, a good time was had by all. I should have my power meter next week, get that working, have some good numbers up there, and this was kind of fun. Not that dynamic, but it did give me an opportunity to rant about some stuff. And with that, everybody, peace out until next time.